Okay, so I wanted to show one of the centers that I have during our ELA block. And this is my writing center. It's called Genius Ladder, and I got the idea from Whole Brain Teaching. It goes from the bottom, and they work their way up. The bottom is a blah sentence. It's something that I provide them every day as they work through their centers. And right now, because we're in opinion writing, I've been giving them opinion sentences. The blah sentence is just as it sounds like. It's a boring blah sentence. It could be anything as simple as I like dogs, or uniform should or should not be mandatory at school. Just something that is not necessarily showing a great force of opinion. This one I chose, they're allowed to choose between board games and video games, and they have to prove to me that it's one or the other is a good way to pass the time. When they get up to the spicy sentence, so they're going to take this blah sentence, write it down, and then they go up to the spicy section, and they're just going to have to take that blah sentence and rewrite it. Board games are by far the most entertaining thing you can do with your time, or video games, blow board games out of the water, or anything that just gets their point across in a more dynamic way. When they go up, after they've figured out what their spicy sentence is, they're going to go up to the extender section. That section is where they're going to rewrite their topic sentence, that it's going to be a much more interesting sentence, something that I'm going to want to read over and over and over again. And then they have to add one detail to prove their point. My kids in this school are not the strongest writers. I have some good writers, but a lot of them are really far behind. So this has been really helpful to break it down and break down that editing process and thinking about what we're doing and where we're going with it. So by the time they get to the extender, all they're doing is just adding one detail to prove their point, and not in the same sentence. It has to be a separate sentence. So now, after they've figured out just one point, one detail, they move up to the genius section, and they're going to rewrite their spicy sentence, and they're going to have their detail ready to go, and they need to plug in a transition and an elaboration. Now, with my kids who are really struggling in writing, I want them to get to at least that part where they're just plugging in one transition word and they are practicing on their elaborations. My writers who are stronger and have kind of gotten that process down, they have a few different options, and it depends on where we are in the week. They will either go ahead and do the whole ladder with one point, like let's say they chose video games, and then if they finish, they will have to, on another page, go through the whole process again, trying to argue the other point. Now, sometimes this can be easy for them, like if you were choosing between cats and dogs or a better pet, you can think of ways that one or the other might be better. But sometimes if it's something they really have strong opinions on, they have a very difficult time arguing that other point, and I love it because it makes them struggle. The other option is on Fridays, when we've gotten through our Genius Ladders, they all switch and they edit each other's, and then they go through and they help each other revise them as well. So I'm just going to show you real quick an example in one of my kids' books. I marked the size. They all have just the regular composition notebooks, and I marked their sides so they can just see where to draw their lines from. And so this kid started with video games are a good way to pass their time, and then he elaborated, video games are the most entertaining way in the world to pass the time. And then he's going to give me his point that they have controls and vehicles and animals and much more. And then when we come up here, we have, that's just the most entertaining way to pass the time. For example, they've got controls and vehicles, for instance, and here's his elaboration. And he's going to go in and explain, apparently you can be animals in video games. And he's going to give me an example for a pet.